And now we are officially in. Thank you very much, everybody, for being here. We had two folks who called ahead to sign up. If there are folks here wishing to speak regarding artistry, we're going to have a public comment opportunity during the meeting tonight. So we won't be taking any comment here regarding this. So I'm looking at you, Pat. So it's just so we're clear here, we've got a couple of people. Bryce Staley and Sally were the two that called ahead. Bryce or no? No.
I did not call ahead.
You did not call ahead, but would you like an opportunity to speak?
I would.
And not artistry related?
Correct.
Okay. Why don't we, Sally, since you called ahead, we'll start with you. Is there anybody else who wants to speak non-artistry related kind of information? Very good. As we do when we don't have enough folks to fill up our time allotment, we'll give everybody 10 minutes and we'll make sure that we get no more than 10 minutes and keep it even for everybody. So good evening, Sally. Welcome.
Thanks. December 7th, 2021, I sent council and council secretary the following. Nathan states Success Academy is a charter school. It is operated by a nonprofit, the way most every charter school in Minnesota is. But it doesn't matter who the operator is. Charter schools are public schools, period. To say otherwise is simply false. At this point, you have been reminded several times. I'm not sure what the purpose of this distinction is, but what you're saying is simply false. Yes, Success Academy is a charter school. It is a nonprofit, the way most every charter school in Minnesota is. The statement, it doesn't matter who the operator is not accurate. Success Academy is operated by a non-operation, a private business, and that does matter. A private business opened without a needed playground, and that matters. The private business believing their use superseded the public use matters. Yes, charter schools are public schools, and I'm not saying otherwise. I'm saying that charter schools operated by a private business, and that is not false. The purpose of the distinction is that a private business should have their own playground and should not complain when the public uses the playground. What I am saying is not false. Success Academy is a private business that provides a public education. So I was surprised when the mayor interrupted me last listening session and stated, our charter school is not a private business. It's a public school in the state of Minnesota. We have had this discussion before. It's been asked and answered. We have not had a discussion and still have not had a discussion. On Wednesday, October 19th, 2022, the mayor sent an email that states Minnesota law very clearly and definitely states that charter schools are considered public schools in the state of Minnesota. I replied with a state statute for a charter school, 124E06, forming a school. Subdivision 1, individuals eligible to organize or a group of individuals. Subdivision 2, nonprofit corporation. The school must be organized and operated as a nonprofit corporation under Chapter 317A. A public school, publicly run, publicly funded under state statute 123B, general powers of independent school districts. So they're in the state statute in two different locations. I conclude with asking that I be able to read what I had planned to read October 17th without being interrupted. Friday, October 21st, 2022, I sent the mayor an email with city data. The data were emails from Glenn Markegard to city manager and city attorney and Councilmember Coulter. That states, quote, the term private school shall mean any building used for educational purposes by 5 or more persons at one time and is not operated by a locally elected board who has local taxing authority, emphasis added. The current charter school meets the 2011 definition of, quote, private school, quote, quote. On Saturday, October 22nd, I sent the mayor an email with a link to an article, Why Minnesota is Joining Nationwide Trend for Community Schools, written by a former educator and now writer, researcher, that states 180 privately run, publicly funded charter schools and publicly funded, privately run charter schools. In addition to this article, I sent a few others that stated privately run. The importance of stating the private business Success Academy is that it is a private business, and the city is not responsible for providing the private business Success Academy a playground or entrance or any more than it is responsible for providing any other private business, a playground entrance, or any other need. Our charter school is a private business that offers an education to the public that is funded by the public. Private school, privately run, privately funded. Public school, publicly run, publicly funded. Charter school, privately run, publicly funded. As I asked in several emails, I would like to know that I will be able to read what I had planned to read October 17th, 2022, without being interrupted when I state the Private Business Success Academy.
Councilmember Nelson.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a couple of questions, Sally. One, or this isn't for you, but maybe for the city. Is there any requirement in our codes that a school provide a playground?
I do not know the answer to that off the top of my head.
Okay. Second, it seems to me that your distinction, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that because it's private, it should provide that and not be able to use the playground that is there. Is that accurate?
What I was going to say next week, I'll give a little bit of it, is that what happened was the planning commission said that they would have to provide their own playground. And then the mayor closed the hearing to the entire, and then after the hearing was closed, he said, well, I think they can just use it together. So there was no discussion. Public wasn't able to go up and say, how will this negatively impact us? You know, and then I did bring all that data where it shows the government says you can't have preschool with, you know, 5th and 6th graders. And so that discussion never happened.
But outside of the process question, so had we had that process conversation and then ultimately determined to not require them to build a separate playground near the existing playground, you'd be okay with it?
That would depend on how the conversation went, because if I can't use the playground because my grandchildren, and at the time, I can't remember how many I had, it's just not safe. And, you know, council not hearing that was really difficult. The other part of it is too, is that if the city was going to allow use, there has to be a shared agreement. And then you have, you know, requirements. Specifically, you have the licenses that would be required. Like we have a shared agreement for the field. They own the field and the tennis courts and the basketball court. And we have a shared agreement, and it requires them to, you know, give us some, and then they get to use our baseball fields. And then they have to have a insurance on that. And yet we didn't have any of that. There was no proper process to that.
Okay. And so this may be more of a question for the city manager, but it's my understanding that a lot of private organizations utilize public park space. BAA, BFA, United, all of those programs are private enterprises that utilize public services. And I think one of them, frankly, in my opinion, one of the most fundamental core services that a city provides is providing those spaces for places to use it. It's also my understanding that the city provides significant funding to build playgrounds at every school, where not every school, but lots of schools within the city, and people aren't able to use it whenever they want. And I know that if I go to utilize a park, any type of facility, there may be a group already using it. It isn't that I can just use it whenever I want. I have to share.
The other organizations that use it, I've collected enough data. For instance, Valley View Middle School, when they come use Smith Park, they take out a permit. And then I've seen other people take out a permit. Yet I've not seen Darul Farouk or Success Academy take out a permit. But it does seem like a permit is required, and there is, like, I think you sign it and say you're responsible, that the city's not responsible for you bringing a group. And then about the city sharing to fund, yes, we do, I was going to say part of what I was saying last week, intended. Cedar Valley Church, they own that entire plat of property. The city needed a park and said, can we do this together? And so they built that park together on Cedar Valley's property. The city did the same thing with the Darul Farouk property, with the field behind it, and then basketball and tennis courts. We invested a lot of money in there. We paid for all the lights. We shared the cost of the field. We did the entire tennis court and basketball court. So we have that arrangement already. And so it was completely different where, you know, all of a sudden they've got a large school running now and the planning commission says, you guys got to build your own playground. And then, you know,
But the city council has the ultimate
Yeah,
decision.
To be clear, the planning commission is, they make recommendations to the city council and the city council makes the final decision.
right. And it was odd though, that when it happened,
Agreed, it was odd. I agree with you. It was odd.
okay,
And that's why I want to separate the process part from the
Yeah.
ultimate decision that was made, because I fundamentally think it's an important role of the city to provide these types of amenities. And, you know, my business utilizes a park near our office space for lunches, and we sit at the picnic table, and then other people want to be there. It's actually one of the recruiting tools we use, is that we have trails in the immediate proximity. We have a large company near us. Every day, they're utilizing the park next to them that Burnsville provided and paid for. Private businesses utilize these features just as much as residents do. And yeah, sometimes you can't use it exactly when you want. That's just a consequence of having a lot of people wanting to use it. That's a good thing.
I am,
Past 10 minutes now.
okay.
Make sure that we keep it even for everybody. Sorry, council member, but we're,
Oh, I just wanted to clarify that they did end up building their own park too.
yep.
So,
All right,
yep, okay.
go on. Are you Bryce?
Oh.
I'm looking behind you, actually. I'm looking right through you. No, oh, we're 0 for 2 on Bryce. I'm sorry. So if you'd like to come up and be more than happy. No, I'm not.
Go ahead.
How are
Hi
you?
there.
Good to see you again.
Jeez, first in, or last in, first up, right? Wow.
If you could state your name for the record, please, and,
What's that?
Not artistry related, right?
No, no.
all right.
No.
Good to see you again.
Hey, good to see you again.
Yeah, I'm done.
My name is Mike List, 10313 Fifth Avenue South, Bloomington, Minnesota. And I'm not a part of your district. I just missed, Loman's. So I just figured I would just,
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
it's very interesting.
Come anytime.
What's that?
Come anytime.
Well, no, one of the things I wanted to speak to a little bit about that was, it's just, I think what's getting caught in those conversations is talking about the rate versus the actual amount, right? And the actual amount is based on the appraisal, right? And so, of the house. So when we're talking about these things, we're only talking about one dimension and not the full dimension. And so, and that's what's getting lost in some of these conversations. And I think that's what that guy was trying to allude to, was that part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to kind of
Thank you.
give you some constructive feedback on
I
that.
appreciate it.
So, let's see here. And I didn't come to talk about that.
Here, thank you. I appreciate it.
The survey review from, I think, last week. So I think one of the individuals had a comment comparing two surveys and saying it was interesting that they were different.
Yep, that was me.
I would just, a reminder, just like the wording of questions for a referendum can be slightly different, but can have different impacts. I would say that's probably your biggest difference there.
Yeah. So I think it might be.
And the other thing in reference to that survey, the interesting part, I think, would be the data itself. You had solicited data and then you had unsolicited data. The unsolicited data was the 55 that came via the internet. I think there's value in understanding those differences. And, you know, and I'm not sure how people consume that or look into that. But I do think, you know, and was there a report about the unsolicited data?
I think it was mentioned within the report, and I'm sure the data is there within the 3-ring binders we got. But
Okay, yeah.
Jamie, any?
Yeah, and if I might, Mr. Mayor, when they tabulate the results, they don't tabulate them
Right, yeah.
through
And
the website because those aren't random.
correct, they're, yeah, unsolicited results. But I think the interesting thing with the unsolicited side is that you may be able to extend that, right? Think about having that up running over a 12-month period. And then what you can do is collect that data over the time period. And instead of splitting it by, say, oh, here is this data collection time period, you can split it off by survey completion date. And then what you can do is you can look at that data and you get kind of a real you get a real-time aspect to it. Like most people in the industry maybe call them pulses or live pulse type of survey results. So I think there'd be some interesting value in reference to that. I don't know if anybody would be, interested in that type of information. And then the other thing would be, when I look at Bloomington, you have multiple physical barriers within the city. Plus you have a interesting dynamic in the build out of the city. The build out being a very east to west build out, but then you also have interesting dynamics around the 494 corridor. And then you have the splits between 77 and 35 in the west, east, and central or gateway. So it'd be interesting because I think you collect it by district. It'd be interesting to collect that data by precinct versus district. And you still have anonymity associated with that. But I think then you get a more clear picture and able to help certain areas and more maybe concerns may come up and be more prevalent as you split that data out. So I think that would be an interesting thing to consider going forward for that. Let's see. And then kind of now moving away from the survey side of things and kind of moving to the build out, or maybe where there's some confusion or maybe people will be confused about the fire departments and the rollout and build out of the fire departments. So, and I think the one thing when you have a report out there that talks about like a dashboard, you have 10 metrics on it. And then when I look at the metrics for fire protection on a 10-point scale, fire protection for the city is 2, with 1 being the highest. So then the question being, I think you have a question that you would want to make sure that you get answered in order for this to be successfully rolled out and for the constituents to understand, hey, this is why we need this. But when you look at the metrics and you look at the dashboard, it says something different. And so, and no one speaks to that. And so, and just, not everybody comes to these meetings, but people talk about that, right? And they're like, well, this doesn't make any sense. What's going on at the council? I'm looking at this dashboard. This dashboard's telling me I've got excellent fire service. And that's from, it's an insurance standard. And so people are like, well, what's going on? And so, to help people get there to support your position, I think these are things that people should be looking at and answering, because it could go one of two ways. It's like, why? Or, what are these dashboard metrics? What are they really telling me, and how relevant are they? And how good is this information going forward? If you're telling me it's a 2, and then you're telling me I have to spend millions of dollars because, for fire protection, one of the two is obviously.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, to clarify, so when you say 2, that's the public perception of fire service as relayed through the survey?
Well, that's the grade on the actual dashboard.
Okay.
So the dashboard gives Bloomington a grade of 2 on a 10-point scale, with 1 being the best.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure which dashboard that might be.
It's a metric. It's
Is that on the city website or you?
yeah, city website. Yeah, it rates.
Change the fire.
Mayor and council members, I believe it's the National Federated Insurance
Correct.
rating
Yes.
of fire department services.
Got it.
So it's an
Okay.
Industry rollout, so it's an insurance metric that the city references in evaluating its own service.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
So it just leads to more questions. And if you're, going to successfully roll those things out,
There's a lot of detail to that.
Oh, absolutely. And that's,
Yeah, and that's a good point.
and that's why I'm trying to come here to provide constructive
Yeah, no,
feedback,
that's great.
to get good messaging out to constituents so people can make informed decisions. Because I'm not going to say, well, no, we shouldn't do this because we've got a 2. That I don't know enough about that metric to understand it, but it leads to some serious questions that should be, it should be part of the plan to roll this out to the public to say, hey, this is why we need to do this. And so you have, it's kind of greasing the skids a little bit.
Mike, is there anything else? Because should we go?
I've got lots.
I'm sure.
Back again.
But anyway, no, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Can I suggest that next time? Because I don't think you signed up. If you sign up and let them know that maybe had Chief Seal here.
Yep.
Talk about that in more detail.
Good point. Thank you, John.
Just a heads up.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Constructive criticism.
Touche.
So thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. I saw a couple of late arrivals. Now, if you're anybody else hoping to speak tonight, I mean, I didn't see any. Okay, this gentleman is next. We'll see if we can fit you in. Otherwise, we might have to ask you back next time if that's okay. So, and if it's artistry related, you'll have an opportunity during the meeting itself. Okay, good enough.
Good evening.
Good evening.
There's my name, contact information for you guys.
Could you tell us your name? So just
My name is Dale Johnson. I live at 8915 Old Cedar Avenue South, apartment 104. And I moved into Bloomington in May.
welcome.
I've lived at a number of places around the town, including many years up in Brooklyn Park. So I'm still new to all this. I thought I would come and see how things are going. I got this in my mail.
Mhm.
And it leaves me with more questions than it answers. It's an interesting document. Is there a place where I can go and get all the information regarding this survey?
Yeah.
Okay, where do I find it?
On the website somewhere. I can't give you the URL right off the top of my head, but it's
So
up.
it's on the city website
Yes, it is.
and it'll tell me,
You just search, I think it's just community survey.
Yeah.
Turn it out. There's a search option.
I'll have yours.
okay, thank you, I'll do that. Is there any connection between the Morris Leatherman Company and anybody in the city of Brooklyn, Bloomington?
And I think Mr. Verbrugge has used them in the past and
They're a firm that.
Firm that we've known.
In the metro area
Yeah.
for many decades.
Okay,
Bloomington's public schools has used them for years.
okay,
We use them from time to time on special subject surveys.
What do you mean connection?
well, cousin, brother, friend, nephew, ex-wife, that's a connection, okay?
Clarify.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I see the name of the company and the guy who did the survey, they share the same last name. It's the
the name of
Morris Leatherman,
the name of the company is Morris Leatherman.
yes,
And those are the two last names of the two principals in the company.
okay.
But he does not work for the city, if that's your question.
No, he worked. No, that wasn't my question. I asked if there was a connection between anybody working at the city and the company.
Mr. Johnson, you seem combative here. I mean, we're trying to have a conversation.
Yeah,
Don't be combative.
okay, good, thank you. I found it interesting that in this article, it talks about this percentage and that percentage and that percentage of people. And I'm hoping that now if I can find the documents, I'll read them about how it was all picked up. The part that really,
And I would also suggest, I think it references the date that he did the presentation. I would go back and watch the presentation that he gave to the city council. It's on, again, that's on the website as well. And he details it very, very clearly and very well.
it says when the survey was taken. It doesn't say when it was presented to the council.
You can figure out when the presentation to the council was for you.
Okay, well, it doesn't have that here. Just point of reference. The interesting part about it is because you have percentages, okay? But it doesn't tell you how many people were contacted. And most of you here probably have a cell phone. How many of you have a home phone, a landline? Okay? Where you get your responses to a survey depends on where you ask. All right? So getting cell phone numbers is a little more difficult. So I'm hoping that the information gives me a picture on where the phone numbers came from, and how many people were actually responded back or they talked to. Because you can call 1,000 numbers and maybe only get a hold of 200 people, all right? So percentages can be skewed depending on how many people you actually talk to. There's what, 80, how many thousand people?
90,000, 90,000 people.
90,000, okay. So a fair sampling of the opinions of the people in this city needs to be a pretty high number when you're talking about
Actually,
spending money.
statistically, it was a survey of 400 people. And statistically, that is an accurate survey within 4 or 5 points, plus or minus 4 or 5 points.
400 represents a good survey out of 90,000.
I'm terrible at statistics and don't understand it myself, but I have heard that and it's been pretty well documented.
Conversation that we had when presented, like we had a conversation about that specifically.
Well, as long as all the information is somewhere I can find it, that would be great.
And I just looked up, there's a whole report on our website that you can dig in to all of it.
Good, thank you. The part that I found most interesting was of the respondents supporting the sales tax increase, if the majority of the revenue came from people living outside of Bloomington. Well, I like that idea too. I can go crazy if I can spend your money, all right, or your money, Jamie, or the city's money. I don't think about things as much if it's somebody else's money. So besides the fact that that seems kind of crazy, how did the survey explain how people outside of Bloomington are going to be hit up for the money?
It's a sales tax. It's a half-cent sales tax.
Okay.
Given the strength of Bloomington's retail economy and our hotels and just the Mall of America, basically in general.
Okay.
41 million people a year who go through the doors at the Mall of America aren't all from Bloomington.
Yeah.
Those people spend money there, and every time they would spend money, a half-cent sales tax would be collected. So up to was that like 60 or 70?
76%, and that was an analysis that was done by the University of Minnesota Extension Service.
76%
would be generated by people not living in the city of Bloomington.
Though I think that, didn't they downgrade that to like 67% or
That's
something?
a reflection of the
Pandemic.
pandemic.
Yeah.
Either way, 2/3.
Yeah.
Close to 2/3, yeah.
And sir, there's a webpage that has tons of information on it.
Good, thank you. I'll look that up. So how much of the Bloomington budget comes out of the Mall of America?
Depends on how you define budget, but between
The money you're taking in,
Revenue.
the money.
revenue.
Okay, it's a variety of sources. First of all, the sales tax generated by the mall, and then it's complicated. Do you want to also include all the hotels that support the Mall of America, all the restaurants and bars that support?
That's why I just asked about the mall. I just asked.
And then we also have a liquor, in addition to the liquor and lodging tax, we have a tax on admissions and tickets. So for Flyover America or Nickelodeon Universe, there's a tax on all of that.
I'm sure there's lots of sources. I was asking about the Mall of America.
There's a little bit of nuance to some questions every now and again, and sometimes you have to go.
That's the big ticket?
If I can, Mr. Mayor.
Please.
Okay.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mall of America represents about 10% of the city's tax base. So for property tax revenue, about 10% is generated by mall holdings.
Okay.
And then we receive about $1 million a year in admissions tax that the mayor mentioned. That's a 3% tax on all tickets sold for entertainment venues in the city.
Okay, $1 million represents a percentage of what?
That's tickets sold for entertainment.
Of overall city revenue.
Yeah, we're going to jump from percentages to millions. It gets confusing
million-
unless we're using the same scale.
Makes sense.
The
Thank you.
$1 million is the 3% admissions tax. So I don't know what the total number is. You're asking me that, but I suppose it could do that.
Okay, so the
3% of the total?
3% admissions tax on tickets sold. So things
So
like.
if we get $1
Flyover
million, then,
America,
then it would be
whatever.
300 million.
Yes, yes.
is the breakdown available somewhere?
Of the city's overall budget, yeah.
The entire budget's online.
Yeah.
Perfect.
You're
Okay.
asking. So,
Yeah. Because
Yeah,
it's-
you caught what I was asking. You understood the question. I appreciate that.
We should take it offline. let's take off lunch and get the, if you want the answer.
Mr. Johnson, we need to wrap up here and get downstairs and start our meeting.
Okay, well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
And is your email address, did you put your email address?
Name, phone number, email, address, the whole bit.
Very good. We'll send information as to when that,
We'll send you some of the links.
I was on the website earlier, but yeah, you can do that too.
Make it easy for you to find.
Yeah, that way I can become an involved citizen, because I think that's where communities need to have involved citizens. If they don't, you're not in touch. I live in the east end of Bloomington. And since May, coming here, I made a quick decision to move into that apartment building, which I regret. But I'm there. Life changes. That's fine. But in my driving around Bloomington, it is, I've gone to some of the concerts out at the, by the ski jump out there. All right. It is obvious there is a vast difference between East Bloomington, near Highway 77, and the west end of Bloomington. It is night and day. And having come from a city that turned itself into East Bloomington, I'd hate to see it happen here.
Well, there are many reasons for that difference.
Happy to have that. I live 2.5 blocks from you. I'm happy to have a conversation.
All right, thank you.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Return. Thank you all very much. I'm sorry, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I tell you, the only thing I wanted to say was I wanted to thank Councilman Del Sando for the town